We are live. Okay. Hopefully, I think we should be fine with the mic down there. I think you can hear me just fine. I'm gonna leave it down there. Go ahead and turn on the music. Okay, and that's not right. Okay. So, thank you for joining us, Vondi. Yes, I had to do the stream later today because I worked this morning. And actually, I was just thinking about you a little minute ago because we got to do Chinese calligraphy today in honor of the Chinese New Year. So I was thinking of you and your Japanese writing. I know it's different, but it looked very similar. And one of my coworkers brought her Chinese brushes, and she taught us because she's Chinese and knew how to write some of these characters. And so I got to learn a little bit about the Chinese calligraphy style and the motions and how to do it properly. And I thought that was really interesting. And I thought of you because I know that you work on your Japanese stuff. So today is Friday, and I just wanted to have some fun. I've been tinkering with some ideas in regards to artwork that I would like to make. So if there aren't any name requests, then I'm probably just going to work on that. And I think I'm going to start off with that. But if anybody wants to have their name written, I'll be happy to do that. Able to read and write in Chinese. Wow, you can do everything, man. That's amazing. I'm really impressed by that. What's that? 3 or 4 languages that you've worked with? I know you said you could do another language. It was Japanese. Oh, that's right. Tagalog, right? Is that how you pronounce it? The Filipino language. So that's pretty awesome. I only know English and broken Spanish, and I know a little bit of French, and I can write my name in Arabic. But aside from English, I don't know anything else. I'm not fluent in anything else, at least. I need to take off my watch. But yeah, now I really want to go and get a Chinese brush pen and some ink and start doing some Chinese calligraphy, because that stuff is really cool. That's okay. If you write it out, nobody will know that your grammar is bad. They'll just think your writing is beautiful. Except for Chinese, maybe. They'll probably know. Okay. So I had a couple words that I had thought of. Just a little warm up here. Okay, and then on this side, I'm going to do another one. Not super happy with that, but see how it looks in the end. Hey, what's up, David? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. I'm just playing around with this idea that I've had. And I've been wanting to make work doing this, but I haven't found the best way to do it or the most interesting way to do it yet. Just keep playing around with different forms. I actually got asked to do an interview for an art program, for an art council And they're gonna pay me. They're gonna pay me to interview me. That was very cool. It's nice to see that my efforts in art are being appreciated. With Chinese and Japanese writing, I've always found it somewhat disheartening to see computer-like writing. What do you mean by that, Vondi? Like very rigid in its form, or actual like computer typography? Yeah, artists do need money. They seriously do. I think I need to work with a bigger sheet of paper so I don't feel limited here at the end. Okay, I don't like that. I can't see that, the whole of this O. Maybe it works though. It's kind of interesting. You guys can see it all that way. Okay, yeah, I'll check that out. I actually have some bigger sheets of paper that I would like to try out. So how is everyone's Friday? Did everyone have a good Friday? This is a really big sheet of paper. So, should be able to work better on this one. Guess I don't really have to worry about it being a final draft with this crease in it. If you have a moment, I want to hear what fine art means to you. Yeah, I have a moment. Fine art. Well, I actually studied art history, so as part of my thesis, I decided to figure out why the art object had any sort of value at all in society, and why penmanship is or isn't a fine art. Well, there's so many different ways to look at it. I think that the art object, really ultimately what makes it fine art is this other little thing that I'll explain, but the art object, the thing that is made in the end, I personally believe is simply a doorway into the essence of another person who made it. So we have this art object, and people adore it or enjoy looking at it because it actually contains a part of another person, and this is why it holds so much value. So like objects that, like the Mona Lisa for example, this object was painted by one of the greatest artists of all time, and I think part of the reason why we think it's so great is not that it's such a beautiful painting, but it's that this personality is behind that painting. And the big deal with the Mona Lisa is the mystery of why it even exists and why he worked on it for so long, or why he made it for himself, because the painting wasn't commissioned, and back then it was a pretty big deal for an artist to go and make something for themselves and it kind of withstand time. Most things back then were made for very specific reasons. For example, patrons would pay you to make something. So I think that the fine art object is simply a way of experiencing the artist in a way, getting a sense for their essence, intangible essence. It has nothing to do with them as a physical person, but that thing that makes you a person. So penmanship as an object, as something that is done, right? Say we look at the work of those masters in the Business Educator and C.P. Zahner and all these other names. We look at those, the art objects that they left behind, and you look at it and you can get a sense of their essence through it. And I think that's where it holds the value. And as technicians, so people who are interested in the skill as well, we can look at that craft and we can see the technical ability behind it and admire and really appreciate that. But in the end, that's not, I don't think, why we considered it an art piece. I personally, when I look at those works, I see so much personality in them, and it feels as if I'm getting to experience a little bit of that person through the work. I think penmanship, and here's the difference between the fine art and just the art object, or why it is or it isn't. It's if you can justify it. So if you can talk about the object in a way that people can understand the conceptual significance of that object in the end, then it's fine art. And then that's the way it works today. It doesn't really matter what you make, because look at Andy Warhol. The guy didn't even make his work. The only thing he did was at the end of the process, he signed his name on it. But he had a bunch of other people in a factory pumping out his work for him, but that was considered fine art. And really, with somebody like Andy Warhol, the fine art behind it is not the object in the end, it's that this guy created a process. It was like a factory for work, for creating artwork. So the significance behind Andy Warhol is really not what he made, but it's the concepts that are buried deep down within the process, and then also his personal interest in small things like the Campbell's soup. It's not a big deal. It's not that impressive. But it's fine art because of the concepts that are ingrained into it. So, the fine art object is just something that somebody has justified in some way or another. And it's become an academic thing too, because fine art is fighting for its place in academia. So then you have that becoming even more significant. How to differentiate between the outsider art and the fine art is the fine art has this rhetoric behind it that justifies it in the end. It's kind of ridiculous. This is what I used to say in college. I said it was just a bunch of bullshit, essentially. Like who had the best bullshit behind their stuff, and who could point to someone else's bullshit and be like, oh, this person also agrees with me or also supports my point of view. So it's just about making stuff up. Would you say you have to be a mainstream definition of fine art, or is there a more restricted definition that most adhere to? No, I don't think there is a mainstream. I think it's constantly evolving. There's no... Like I said, if the artist can justify why it is an art object or why it is fine art, then it becomes fine art. Like the person who comes and tells me that they just want to paint a pretty picture for it being a pretty picture, like you're making decorative stuff. You're not making fine art, because fine art, it has to encompass or incorporate some idea or something underlying or something significant, in my opinion. I remember in college I had this girl in my class who she hated Picasso's work. Picasso did something pretty big back in the day. Like now we look at it and we're like, oh, that's just Picasso's work. But back in the day, what Picasso was doing was pretty big deal. And she hated Picasso's work because it wasn't It wasn't pretty. And it makes sense. We were looking at one of his paintings that basically articulated his opinions on World War. And it wasn't pretty. It wasn't a pretty painting, and it wasn't supposed to be a pretty painting at all, because it's depicting the horrors of World War. And like, some people's perspectives in that class were just limited. I couldn't, like, when you're making something about something as heavy as a world war, like, why would the painting be pretty? Yeah, you know, I think if you turn the right lens on penmanship, and especially ornamental penmanship, or even something as simple as business handwriting, and you move the significance away from what you're making in the end, this cursive writing, and you move it towards, say, the movement, because we're really interested in movement, I think in that sense, see, you can flip the lens on what business penmanship is, and then it becomes a performative thing. So this person's technical ability, just like a ballet, and then you can see how that in itself can be a fine art object, and you can argue for it to become a fine art object. Like, you look at these samples from, you know, really impressive penmen on simple business handwriting, and when you look at it through the right lens, you can definitely argue it as a fine art object. It doesn't have to be limited to just being a craft. Yeah, the whole thing of fine art is just, so if you can justify it, if you can explain the significance of it, then it becomes pretty important. And that's the thing too with artists, is nowadays, like, the artist really has to be able to articulate their work. They have to be able to talk about it, and especially if I were to go and get my master's or something like that in art, it's a lot of writing, a lot of reading and a lot of writing, because they want you to be able to talk about your artwork, and that's also too how you sell your artwork. You have to connect with people on an emotional level. Let me give you an example. There's one of my favorite artists right now. Her name is China Adams. I got to see her speak at my school, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And one of the things that she did, one of the art projects that she made, it's just so simple. It's like the genius behind it. She had x-rays taken of, I think, seven different major bones in her body. So she had x-rays of, like, her forearm and her femur, and her skull was one of them, and then up on the wall, when you went to the show, all these x-rays hung on the wall. And if you were to buy one of these x-rays at the show, if you wanted to buy that artwork, in the end what you were buying were the rights to those bones after she passed. So you got to keep her bones after she passed. And like, that is just, that's like taking the conceptual level of what the art object is to a whole new level. And it really articulates too my idea on what the art object is. It has nothing to do with what you're making or what it is that you're showing. In the end, it's about the ideas that are ingrained in it, and then also the essence of the person as an artist. And that's really what collectors and what I think people in general are interested in, is we're interested in experiencing other people. And so the art object is a way for you to experience a taste of the artist. So, like, in a lot of my fine artwork, I haven't really been making 2D stuff. think I know some people who'd pay for famous bones. Yeah. Oh, she sold everything. Some guy, one collector came in and sold or bought all her work that day. So, you know, people understand, especially collectors who are actually collecting work and doing all that and have the money to do that. They understand the significance of ideas like that or concepts like that. So some guy came in and bought all of her work that day. So it's like, you know, when you have a good idea or an idea that is really different and out there, people notice that. And the idea too is a reflection of you as an artist. Yeah, the thing is never about the thing. Yeah, if you've ever read Heidegger, I don't know how much you're into philosophy or anything like that, but Heidegger talks about the origin of the art object, and it's a great little series of papers that talk about the thingness of the thing, you know, not the thing itself, but essentially the essence within it. So yeah, and a lot of my work right now, my fine art work at least, isn't necessarily 2D, and part of the reason why I don't like making 2D work is because it's really hard to captivate someone for more than a few seconds. I have this I'm kind of playing a game with everybody who comes into the gallery. They walk into the gallery and they do this thing where they peruse around and they spend 2, 3, maybe 10 seconds with each artwork. And that really bugs me because as an art historian, I would spend sometimes hours looking at an artwork to try to understand more about what's going on or to understand the emotion or the concepts that are ingrained in it, especially if you don't have references from the artist, or if I'm trying to come up with my own theories of about the artwork. You have to spend a lot of time with the artwork and think about it, and people walk into the gallery and they're giving stuff, you know, maybe 5 seconds, 10 seconds at the tops. And so I'm looking for ways to trap the audience in there longer. So I like doing performative work because people will tend to watch out their performance. You know, whether or not it's a video performance or it's a live performance, people will want to stick around for a little bit longer and see what's going to happen or what's going on or what's next. About strict definitions and non-definitions of science and pseudoscience. I don't know, I'd have to look more into that. That sounds really interesting though, Vondi. Art history is essentially the philosophy of the art object in the end. I'm really into philosophy and thinking in general. I like thinking. But I do feel like I'm at psychological warfare with people who come into the gallery to look at work because I just want to take their time. I want to find ways to steal their time. And I think incorporating some kind of lettering into fine artwork is really interesting because people have this reaction to lettering where they see it and then they stop and want to read it. So if people have that reaction in the gallery, it forces them to stay a little bit longer. And especially if I have mirror writing or whatever it is, this kind of abstract form writing that is somewhat mirrored, people will want to stop and take a moment and see what's written in it. And whether or not they're really taking in what they're looking at or they're just trying to figure out what they're reading, they're getting more of a sense of me as an artist potentially by spending a little bit more time with the artwork. And that's ultimately what I want. I just want them to spend a little bit more time looking at stuff. So it is a pretty interesting game that I play as an artist and showing in galleries. But I do think that performative work is right now my favorite. It's the most interesting. That's why I did that foot wash thing. I may be on HBO. If you see anybody on HBO washing feet in the background of an interview, that's probably me. do I want to do with this? I'm kind of liking this larger format. My question is just, do I want to keep it like this, or do I want to expand on it and add more texture? Have any water? There's no water in there. So does anybody want their name written? I'm taking name requests today. So if you want your name written, I can do that. I'm still thinking about that there. I think I'm gonna do a smaller test and see if I want to do it. Torn paper for smaller tests. Oh yeah, that's an option too. Yeah, sure. My name is Miguel. Awesome. We'll write Miguel down. Miguel. Thank you for joining us, Miguel. I've been enjoying writing really big with this brush pen. Nice. Okay, since this didn't close, Hi, MJ. Oh, Micah. Yeah, that's Micah. Oh, excellent. It's really nice seeing line variation with your BP. It's not as extreme as Spencerian, which I can barely read. Yeah, I think the brush pen's kind of nice with that, like slight line variation, you know. You could get more exaggerated with it if you wanted to, but I like it simple. I've been wanting to do more textural stuff. Some more consistent stuff. Thinking maybe a finer pen might be better for this. I've been watching your videos, very nice. I've been practicing Spencerian penmanship for a few months. Very interesting and relaxing. Yeah, I've not really worked too much with Spencerian. That whole element of pressure is another additional beast to tackle in the art form. But I do agree, I find it very relaxing as well. You know, the brush pen's gonna be the most ideal for this. Glad I did a test, because I'm not extremely happy with this. Those Chinese calligraphy pens that I was working with earlier today were so fine in the point and then also very flexible, and this Tombow just isn't living up to what I was getting used to over there. Do you know any performative non-calligraphy artists that work on paper? For example, there's a guy on Twitter that does these cool ballpoint drawings that are a single stroke. Yeah, I mean, I do know other artists. There's a guy named Carl Krull, Carlkrull, I believe. He's one of my favorite 2D artists right now. The guy does do some sculptural stuff as well, but he's really interesting in that he does textural work, kind of similar to what I'm doing, but in his own way, and then very different from what I'm doing because it is his. But if you look him up, I'm sure. Let me see. I'm gonna make sure I'm spelling his name right, but I believe it's Carl Krull. Carl Krull. Yeah, this is it. Carl Krull, yeah, really cool 2D artist. When I first started making work in 2000, I think it was 2012 that I first started making work, and this was actually it might have been 2013. Yeah, I think it was 2013 because I had been handwriting for a little bit with both hands, and I was getting to a point where I felt ready to start thinking about work and making work. So I had this really great advanced life drawing teacher who said that I didn't have to do life drawing, I could just do whatever I wanted as long as they met the conceptual requirements of the assignments. And I started doing textural work with handwriting, so I would have some kind of image, and then I'd cover the whole page in handwriting. So I would write backwards. I did this one really big drawing where I had it kind of split in half, and it was this image of a caricature head with TV eyes, and he was holding a pair of scissors in his floating hands, and he was cutting this spirit that was flying away from the inside of his head, and his spirit looked terrified. And then in the background, I had this texture of the word ego on one side and spirit on the other side. And I don't know, I really like texture in work. For me, it's really beautiful to look at things that are rich in texture. And that's just my own kind of preference and taste. There's another guy actually. When I was teaching my creative brain training class in the prisons, I'd always bring in examples of work. This calligraphy stuff. Let's see, where is my fine art? Here we go. Okay. Let's see. I know I have some stuff in here that's interesting. Oh, here we go. Here's another artist that I thought was kind of cool. This guy, Alan Saret. And this is kind of like performative work, but it's 2D, and this is like evidence that the performance took place. But basically what he did is he took like 5 or I think it was 5 different colored pencils, and then he did these circles. So this piece is actually quite large, but yeah, Alan Saret is another one that I thought was interesting. And Andrew Myers is a pretty cool. He's a 3D artist, but this is all screws in a board. So you can see here that these are all screws on a board, and it looks like a shirt. I have the I was lucky enough to see that piece in person. But anyways. Said it. Okay, I'm seeing what I like and what I don't like, so I could move forward with this, I think. Maybe I'm going to work on this one here. Let's do a layer over the top. Freddie Aguilar. Yeah, sure. Freddie Aguilar. Can I spell that right? Yes, Freddie Aguilar. I. That's right. I love the Palmer F. Beats everything else. It's my favorite F. Your favorite singer? I've actually never heard of Freddie Aguilar. My favorite. My Lamy 2000's I hold pretty dearly. I really love that pen. I don't know, but I really enjoy the dip pen too. I guess it depends, like different occasions call for different favorites. I think practically speaking, I like using the Lamy 2000 best. I've really been enjoying this brush pen though to work really big. I'm thinking it might be a more ideal tool for some fine art production, incorporating writing. But I also like, I've been getting into the ballpoint pen too. The ballpoint pen it's quite nice to write with. And I like that it's accessible and that it doesn't feel, especially to people that aren't familiar with writing, that it feels familiar and that they can pick it up and start doing what you're doing. I really like to encourage people to start doing handwriting. Can you them to us? Oh, show them. Show them. Yeah, the Lamy 2000's in the other room. I'd have to get up and go get it. But I have some other writing tools here. I'll show you. You can do some writing samples. Ah, bled through there. So I have a ballpoint pen here. I have a fountain pen. I have a brush pen. I have pretty much all my favorites right here. Oh, this is also one that I never really show, but I enjoy this one as well. Let's do some writing with each one. Oh, this one doesn't have anything on the book. Okay. So the ballpoint pen. Oh no, the L, the double L. Ballpoint. Ugliest double L ever. Such a scary combination of letters. Ballpoint. And then we have, maybe we drop down the exposure a little bit. Easier. Then we have my pencil. Pencils are nice. And then we have fountain pen. I've been testing out the Namiki Falcon as an eyedropper, and it works great. The only thing is that every time I cap it, it spills a bunch of ink out into the cap. And then so the section's covered in ink, and the next thing you know, I'm covered in ink. Pilot Falcon. That's a nice one. That's an extra fine. Is this from this pen? Dang it, I thought I cleaned up the ink. Oh, the other one is the Parallel. Don't know, man. That metal band near the end might be susceptible to corrosion. Yeah, I know. I've been looking at other people, and a lot of people say it's fine. I think the band might only be on the outside. Can't really tell if it's on the inside, but I guess time will tell. Probably need to put down some lines for this one, but I've been enjoying the Pilot Parallel pen quite a bit. Oh, not that one. A lot of P's, I guess. When you're talking about pens, it happens. This isn't the best paper for this either. Yeah, this is a totally different style of writing. Movement is so different. And it amazes me how quickly I get tired doing this. My hand is tired, one word in, it's just like exhausted. Trying to stay still, trying to stay steady. And as you can see, I'm not even that good. I'm already forgetting how to spell parallel. Dying from fatigue already. Does it have parallel have 2 L's in it? I can't remember. Let's just say it does. Should have done the other kind of L first. I don't know, I feel like I spelled parallel wrong. Pilot Parallel, and then the cool thing I like about this pen is that you can go in the corner here and then all of a sudden it's the finest point ever. So that's a lot of fun. I adore the capital P. The Falcon is very nice. From the ink. Oh, I don't know, man, the metal band. Oh yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Micah. But I go through the ink on the converter for that pen just way too quickly. There's like no point in even using the pen because I go through the ink way too quickly. So I just prefer to try it out as an eyedropper. It's been working fine so far. Hasn't leaked at all from the outside or the bottom or anything. And people say that it's possible, so I wish it was really good at like a German script or something. That would be fun. Does anybody want me to write their name in a German script? The irony is I used to teach this script to my prison students. That's a horrible line right there. It's not any better. Proportions are way off. Parallel. It's correct. Yes. We got it. We got it right. You hear that, guys? You can celebrate. My memory served me well. Oh wow. I can see how actually bad it is in the video. It's like looking in a mirror. If you ever want to know if your work is good, just put it in the mirror. The mirror tells you the truth. Let's see. Might as well keep going. Letter T, I think. How does the letter T go? Oh, it goes like this. That cross is too low. Okay, maybe we should stop. This is horrible. Okay. What else is next? Oh yeah, we have the dip pen as well. Oh, and I have an oblique holder here. I've also been... I'm no good at Spencerian, but I've been fooling around with ornamental penmanship. That reminds me, actually, I do have some work that I need to do in that realm. This is actually a nib that says Spencerian on it, I think. Don't know if it's actually a vintage nib. I actually haven't purchased any nibs other than the Nico G. You do your writing as a hobby or you live from it? No, I do not live from it for sure. But I have done work, have been commissioned to do stuff, so that's kind of cool. But I'm mainly a teacher, so I made most of my money from teaching, sometimes teaching handwriting, and I taught for a long time inside of prisons. So in prisons I got to teach calligraphy, but nothing with ink. Ink is not allowed in prisons because it has high value. People want to steal the ink and sell it and use it for tattoos and stuff like that. So I always had to be really creative with how to teach calligraphy, so I didn't really have to be extremely proficient in pointed pen or broad edge or anything like that, because we were going to be drawing the letters anyways. Yeah, that element of pressure is just like always just a mystery to me. I don't understand it fully. Nope. I was watching Brian Chaboya, or he was sending me images. I was like asking him about ornamental penmanship, and he'd send me these images of like really small letters with like super heavy shading. It's like, how the hell did you get that shading? It's like just this hairline, and then all of a sudden it's a blob of ink on top of it. Nope. No, yeah, I know it isn't. It's actually considering. I mean, I don't know. We'll see where things take us, if we'll even have time to really consider penmanship as a career. You know, because there's some people who want me for some other full-time things, and it could be that I'll be running an art program somewhere, or you know, the creative brain training is also kind of a focus of mine in life. I'm really interested in advocating just handwriting in general, so. Do this thing where like I curve. Don't want to curve. I saw a guy once who had beautiful writing. He used to do things for Tiffany's. Very nice. It's a good idea. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of calligraphers who are making a good living. That's the thing too, is that, you know, a lot of those people have spent immense amounts of time, and I've kind of spent immense amounts of time on certain things, but beautiful handwriting isn't one of them. I'm more interested in practical handwriting. A big part of my general life philosophy is to just advocate for good habits, and I think handwriting is a good habit to get into. You know, whether or not it's something that you do in your spare time, or something that meets your needs in other ways, but I'm thinking about this idea of boredom, and how a lot of people choose to kill their boredom, and there are some really good ways that you could spend your time when you're bored. And I think a lot of people succumb to easy ways out of boredom. And technology allows for so much of that nowadays. I think we should... Now this is a bit off topic, but when I was watching The Simpsons, seeing cursive and hearing the word calligraphy uttered by the characters in more than one episode made me smile. Yeah, I think anybody who's passionate about handwriting, when they see handwriting in the mainstream, they think, yes, we're winning. Yeah, I need to work on this more because somebody wants something done. Cool thing is that most people don't really know good penmanship from bad penmanship, so you do a little something and everyone's blown away. Anybody know who Michael G. Ward is? That guy is phenomenal. If you're interested in Spencerian, you definitely want to go check out Mr. M.G. Ward on Instagram, because that guy will blow you away. He makes it look so easy. I have no idea how he does it. Oh yes, the master penman. Oh, you're talking about Michael, right? Not me. He's not a master penman, I don't think, but I'm sure he's well on his way. My favorite word to write. I don't know, I don't really have a go-to word, but there was a time in my life where I was writing a lot of magical. I think my favorite letters to write, though, are the K and the R. Really like K. Really like the letter R. P is a nice one, but I like the round backed R and P a little bit better. If I can ever get them. Running out of space on this paper. Oh wow, I'm getting to the end of this notebook. I've been working on this notebook. Well, not that long, but I've had it for a long time. It's okay, we'll cover the other side of that. What time are we at? An hour 12. Wow. I have to go. It's been a real pleasure sharing with all of you. Dieyen, thank you for sharing all your knowledge. All right, Miguel, thank you so much for joining us. I don't think I'm going to be here much longer either because it's already an hour 12. How did the time go by so quickly? So what do you guys think about this time to stream? I may be changing work here in the near future, so it could be that I will either have to push the morning stream an hour earlier or even 2 hours earlier, which would put me at around 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So I think most people would not be up for that kind of stream. It would cater to a different time zone in the world, that's for sure. What do you guys think of this time zone, or this time for streams? Nope, don't like that. You like the later times. Okay. This time works for me as well. Miguel, thumbs up. Okay. I like the later time as well. Okay, well, we might then start doing later streams. Maybe we'll try that out next week. Or maybe we can mix it up and do some late streams and early streams. I know it's not really a big deal to get on a live stream, but in the mornings, and I'm just waking up, you know, I go and I drink some warm water and brush my teeth and wash my face and then turn on the computer and get everything set up and then just start live streaming. I'm still not really half asleep, but I'm still kind of in a daze from my sleep. And so today, getting ready for the live stream, I felt nervous for some reason. Like I was preparing for a show or something. I don't know, it's kind of weird. What nib am I using? This is a Hunt 21. Do you like the Zebra G nibs? They're okay. I bought a bunch of them. That's the only nib I've actually ever bought new. Oh, and I've also bought the Nico 55, but that's a stiff nib. And they're cool. I don't dislike them, but they were stiffer than I anticipated. So I was using them. I had a wedding that someone wanted me to do the invitations for, so I did a kind of a copper plate like script for that, and I used the Nico nibs, and I found that I was using so much pressure that it didn't work too well with the envelopes that they had given me. So I actually ended up switching back to a Hunt 22 nib, and I used a Hunt 22 for all of those invitations because it was much more flexible and it was easier for me, and I didn't have to put so much pressure and just kind of, you know, tear up the invitations as much. So I actually prefer a softer nib than the Nico G. Evening classes make it hard to get up on time. I really do like the interactive nature, which is why I try. It also kind of sucks having late classes as perfect biscuit streams when I'm in an English pop narrative. Nice. My brother's actually studying medieval literature in Berkeley right now. He's all about pop narrative. I'm gonna ask him about pop narrative and see what he has to say on that. Yeah, I know what you mean, and I know that, you know, the morning time obviously is not catering to the United States. Like, that is for sure, without a doubt, because everyone's either working or getting ready for work. So it could be that maybe I'll have to do 2 live streams. I don't know. But if I do get this full-time job, it's probably going to push everything back to the evening. For someone with joint issues in the hands, what nib would you recommend? Well, that would definitely depend on if you're trying to flex. But I would imagine if putting pressure is painful for you, the softer the nib, the better. I don't really have an immense amount of experience with nibs. The other day I bought a box of nibs that were Esterbrooks. You can kind of see how flexible this nib is, but it's very sharp as well. This is a Hunt 21 nib. And let's see, maybe if we do kind of like a side-by-side comparison, you can see how with the same amount of pressure, one's going to flex a lot more. No, I don't think there's any way for me to actually show you that way. This is a much softer nib. This is an Esterbrook 356. I don't think this is a vintage nib. 356, but that's a very soft nib. I don't know, I think the Hunt 22 might be a good one for you to try. If you've never tried the Hunt 22, I'd recommend you try it. This is the Hunt 22 right here, and it's pretty flexible. I've heard that the Leonard Prince Paul is also very good. It's mostly from the Victorian area, Sherlock Holmes, Mr. James. Oh, okay. Yeah, my brother, he's all into the literary works of the past, and very studious cat. Yeah, but Fondi, if you want to see a really good penman, you should definitely catch David's streams, Perfect Biscuits, because that dude's on another level. I'm more like your casual person. I'm just having some fun, advocating handwriting. But he approaches it very differently than I do, and I learned so much watching his streams. I feel like I get better at penmanship just watching David practice. I don't understand how they do these shades. It just blows me away. Yes, it did annoy him. Sometimes I wonder how I even did this in the first place. The other thing Brian said was that he plants his muscle. I love the way that the K has, it looks like it's reaching. I don't know if you guys can see this, but like if you really personify the K, it looks like it's got an arm thrown back, and then it's got this arm that's reaching over the top, kind of like Michael Jordan who's dunking. I've been wanting to do a series of works where you personify the strokes from calligraphy. Oh, with the eyedropper? You like it? I don't like dipping because it never fits and I'm having to like twist my bottle at an angle so that I could actually dip it. I just use a little eyedropper. It works really well. Here's another thing I haven't worked on, as you can tell. So much work needs to be done. Well, oh, that would be nice. Well, sometimes you can still overload the nib. I just keep a little cup here with water, and if it's about to drip, I just drip it into the cup instead of on the paper. Oh, I fake it to death. Yeah, one thing that you can do to prevent from dripping is just preparing the nib really well beforehand. So you want to make sure that you've gotten all of that oil coating that protects the nib from rust off of the pen. Oh, it's fine, Bondi. You guys can discuss whatever you like. I need to spend a day working on ascenders like that. My thing is like, how do they aim for that? So like right now, I can kind of tell that if I tried to write, it would blow up on the paper, so I'll just dump that excess in little in a little jar here. I need to clean my nib.
Olives had a major run. Maraschino cherries, major run. No one had a run like limes. No one.
Yeah, if my brother was here, he would love to talk to you guys about all things literary. Maybe I should just stick to business penmanship. Yeah, well, they were writing like that all the time if they were creating documents, so I'm sure they were well aware of any sort of indications as far as the nib and ink relationship goes. So if they see something that, oh, well, that's probably going to make a blob, they can recognize it really, really quickly. I mean, it depends on the script you're talking about, Alf. If it was European, it was most likely an italic hand or a potentially copper plate hand. Yeah, the Declaration, I believe, was written in a variant of copperplate. Yeah, American penmanship didn't come around till, well, the classic business handwriting didn't come till like the late 18th century, early 19th century. And I think Spencerian was early 18th century, something like that. When did it? No, not in Grosser script. No, Engrosser script came later also, because I think Engrossers is kind of it's an American term. So what we consider Engrosser script, I think, came later. Copperplate is, yeah, there you go, English roundhand. Well, it's also known as copperplate, but the English roundhand is the cursive script style that came over from England and was used by the colonies early on. And I think that's the style that the Declaration was written in. Yeah, there's plenty of scripts out there. It's quite the rabbit hole, handwriting is. Well, you can make Palmer kind of fancy, really. You can get like little, well, ornamentals, like the fancier version of Palmer. But I think if you're looking for something easier, because the whole arm movement thing is a pretty steep learning curve, unless you're really willing to devote hours on end. Maybe like an italic hand. If you had a good italic exemplar to follow, just a simple stub nib would work. Or even copperplate or the English round hand style. Those are nice styles. And those are more like drawing too, so they're a little bit easier, I think, to acclimate to. I don't really want to flex this nib. Let's see if this will come out. So, like the copperplate style is kind of, I think it's a good beginner script if you just want to do some pretty writing and you don't really want it to be practical. Yeah, I have a couple pieces. You should be able to see them, like right here. That's a piece done on black paper with white. White ink. It's kind of an ugly stem, but I'll grab it really quick. So this one was all done actually left-handed. So it's all written in mirror image, but you can see all the lights in the background there. See some good reflection over there. This is wide. I don't have a close-up on Instagram, but I do have images on my website. It's a part of the art series called Dip. Yeah, so you can see it there. Better images of it at least. But guys, I'm gonna have to go ahead and call it there. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a lot of fun. Glad to see that a lot of you could make this time. I'll keep that in consideration and do more streams in the afternoon, evening time. So that's it for today. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you again next week. Take care.